So let's remember, okay, absolute value is distance from 0. Okay? That's going to be the crucial thing to remember here when it comes to how we solve an equation or inequality with an absolute value in it. Okay? So let me do an easy equation here. Okay? Or a simple one, I'll say. Maybe not easy, but we'll say it's simple. Okay? This equation, right, there's not really anything for us to do. There's nothing to move over to one side, right? We don't really have a way to cancel out absolute value, right? There's no way to kind of really undo it, right? There's no numbers over here to move over to the right-hand side or anything like that. It's just absolute value of x equals 3. So there's not really much for us to do except to just come up with an answer. So what x values make this equation true, Max?
3 and -3.
Right. 3 and -3, right? And if we think back to what absolute value is, these two answers should make sense, right? So when I show you this right here, right, the absolute value of x is 3, okay? If we think about absolute value as distance from 0, okay, I'm asking you the distance of this thing, okay, the distance of the thing inside here has to be 3 units away from 0, right? The distance of what's inside here has to be 3 units away from 0. So what two numbers are 3 units away from 0? Well, you can go 3 units in the positive direction, and that's 3. You can go 3 units in the negative direction, and that's -3. So we have 2 answers here for this equation. Okay, and yes, you need to come up with both, right? So then, okay, if I change this up a little bit here, okay, something like that. Remember, these absolute value symbols are grouping symbols, right? So one thing we cannot do here, we cannot subtract this one from both sides. Okay, we can't subtract this one from both sides because that 1 is kind of grouped in with that x. We would need to be able to do the absolute value first before we can start subtracting. So it's kind of grouped in there. We can't really get at it. Okay, so again, we're back to where we were before. We have this absolute value of this quantity, right? Absolute value of this thing, and it needs to be 4, right? So in other words, the distance of this thing needs to be 4 units away from 0. Well, what two numbers are 4 units away from 0? 3 and 1 are 4 units away from 0 on the number line. So get my number line there. All right. Here's 0. What numbers are 4 units away from 0? 4, right, and -4. Okay? So, in other words, for this equation to be true, for its distance to be 4 units away, either x plus 1 has to equal a positive 4, or x plus 1 has to equal a -4. Right? In order for the absolute value, the distance of this thing to be 4 units away from 0, either that x plus 1 has to equal to a positive 4, because that's 4 units away from 0, or the x plus 1 has to equal to -4. And then you just solve that simple equation. So you get x equals 3, or x equals -5. So there are your 2 answers there. Question?
Which column?
Just just to the right. Okay. Exactly, yep. Thank you. So far, so good there? All right. So, let's try another one here. Okay. In this one, there is some previous work that we can do, right? What would be a good first step here? Yeah, subtract 2 from both sides. This 2 is outside the absolute value, so we can, do our normal algebra stuff with that. right? And so we'll get absolute value of 3x equals 6 there. And now we're back to the exact same situation that we had before in these earlier two problems, right? We have this distance of 3x, right? So the distance of this quantity, we want it to be 6 units away from 0. So again, what two numbers are 6 units away from 0? 6 and -6. So we'll take 3x, and we'll make it 6 units away this way, and we'll take 3x and make it 6 units away the other way, okay, in both directions. So create two equations. And so then just divide by 2, you get x is 2, and divide by 2, you get x is -2. Just like that. So some tips here, right? You want to isolate you want to isolate the absolute value. Okay, isolate the absolute value if needed, right? In the first two, it was already isolated, so we were done. But here, this one, we want to get rid of the stuff that was outside the absolute value first. So let's isolate it, get it by itself, right? Then split into two equations. Okay, and then solve, right? And those two equations, right, so just as an example here, right, you have the absolute value of something equals, like, we'll just say A. So then you'll do that something equals positive A, or that something equals negative A. Right, like this. So there's your, like, two equations, if that helps, to kind of, think about it, right? So why don't you guys try one here? Try, again, solve this one. I'll do 3 absolute value 4x minus 5 minus 2 equals 19. Okay. So try that one. And you really shouldn't need to check or to wait for me to do this, right? You can check to see if you got the right answer or not. Anytime you ever have an equation, by plugging it back in, right? But no, I don't plug stuff back in. That's too much work. But you could. Right here, or you're still working? Okay,
still
that's
working.
okay, that's fine. Good for a start. Yeah, that's right for a start. Yeah. Why don't you say that? Okay, that 2 divided by 3. That's right so far. But then now you want to split it into two equations, right? You have your absolute value isolate, so split it into two equations. One word equals. Absolutely, yeah. Could be. Simplify it if you can, but yeah. So it's going to equal and the next thing with positive. That's right. Okay, 19 plus 2. What do you see? Okay, so 21 divided by 3. See, I have to fix things, yeah. I know you do all the other stuff right. You miss little mistakes like that. That's things. Yeah, that's looking good. I think so. Just check. Make sure it looks good. Nice and good. Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, what's going to be your next step? What should you do next to isolate the absolute value? What's with the absolute value still? Like you got rid of this 2, right? What else is still outside that absolute value? Yeah. And how do you get rid of it? if it's next to something, what does it mean to be next to something? What operation is that showing in math? It's multiplying, right? So now, to get rid of it, you're going to divide it. Divide it, right? Working on it still? Okay, so what were your next step? What's outside the absolute value? Yeah, it's the times 3, right? So how do you undo times 3? Divide both sides by 3. This is good. Yeah, you should get 2 different solutions. Yeah, should get 2 different ones. And one will be a fraction. Fractions.
Which one did you get?
So, how do you prove a minus 2? So then that would be a 21. And so, yeah, you have to go. That's frustrating. But hey, everything else was pretty good, though. Okay?
Yeah, so then you do.
Now, yeah, so, yeah. Yes, okay. How do you get rid of minus 2?
Oh, I should have added it.
Yeah, this is 4 minus 5.
Okay, you guys got an okay here?
Okay.
What's 19 plus 2?
6 divided.
And then divided by 3? 7.
I don't know why.
Yes. Let's go. That's interesting. Okay, okay. All right, I saw a lot of good things, some small errors here and there, but for the most part, looking pretty good. Okay, so we want to add 2 to both sides first here. So 19 plus 2, 21. Okay, then we're going to divide both sides by 3 to get rid of the 3 times there. Again, we're trying to get that absolute value by itself. So we get 7. Okay, and now we have that absolute value isolated. Again, right, what are we looking for here? We want the distance of this thing to be 7 units away from 0. So whatever's inside here needs to be 7 units away from 0. So the 2 numbers would be 4x minus 5 equals positive 7, and the 4x minus 5 equals negative 7. And then you just solve both those equations, okay? So adding 5 divided by 4 gives you a positive 3. Adding 5 gives you negative 2. Divided by 4 gives you a negative 1/2 when you simplify there. Okay? So it should be those 2 answers. All right. Questions on any of that? Question. So add 5. So it'll be 12. 4x equals 12, and then divide both sides by 4. Just, solve the little equation there. Solve the equation there. And same thing for this one. Add 5 to both sides. So you have negative 2, and then divide by 4, and you slice it negative 1/2. So 2 separate equations. Questions on any of that? Okay. If we wanted to solve graphically, okay, so if you're looking at this and we wanted to solve this graphically, okay, and this is true for any equation you ever come across, okay? So if you're like on the SAT and it's like, calculator active section and you come across this equation and you're like, I have no idea how to solve this kind of thing or whatever, anytime you ever want to solve an equation by graphing it, you can graph this left-hand side, like in y1, okay? Graph this right-hand side in y2, and then you want to look for where the 2 graphs would what? Intersect, right? Okay. So we're going to have some absolute value. So this one's kind of tricky to graph because it's got a b, but we can factor the b out, but that'd be kind of nasty. So that may be kind of hard to imagine here. But you can maybe imagine trying to graph like this one, for example. Okay, right? We can pull that 3 out front of the absolute value there. So we have a shift up 2, right? And then a stretch of vertical stretch of 3. Okay, we would graph this absolute value function like we've been doing. And then graphing an 8, what's an 8 going to look like when you graph it? Yeah, it's a horizontal line through 8, right? So you're going to have this absolute value function. You're going to graph a horizontal line through 8, and then voila, where those 2 intersect, that'll be your place. That'll be your solutions. The x coordinates where they intersect, right? You don't really need the y for y would be 8, but you do that. Okay. So you can also solve this by graphing too. I'm going to throw one more at you here with the equations, okay? Because some interesting things can also show up here as well. Okay, yeah, I'll do this one. So negative 5, absolute value of x plus 1 plus 2 equals 12. Okay, so go ahead, take a second or two, isolate the absolute value here. Don't solve it, please. Just isolate the absolute value. And then look at that absolute value equation and think about why it's weird. Okay, so again, just isolate the absolute value. Please don't solve it. Just isolate the absolute value. Okay. And think about why your result is weird. Okay, so hopefully you're able to isolate by this point. So there's our result. Right, minus 2, you get 10. Divide both sides by negative 5, you get negative 2. Now, if we just blindly follow the procedure that Mrs. Whitmire told us, right, that when I isolate the absolute value, then I set it equal to the number and the opposite of the number, and then I solve the equation and I get my answers, you will miss what the actual answer for this is. What is the answer to this equation? So, go ahead.
Is there no answer?
No answer? Is that what you're going to say, Katie? Just a negative number? Okay. Max, what are you going to say? No answer? Now what are you going to say? No answer. Yes. The answer is there is no answer here. The answer is there is no answer. Because we're trying to see the absolute value of something is equal to a negative 2. Is it possible for a distance of something to be negative? It's impossible, right? Not possible. Okay? So you could go through the procedure here if you wanted to. You could set x plus 1 equal to negative 2. You could set x plus 1 equal to positive 2. You could solve it. You would get answers. But if you try plugging either one of those answers back in, it won't make the equation true because this equation is never true. There is no solution. An absolute value of anything, will never, ever, ever be negative. Okay? So, please don't turn your brains off, okay, and go to autopilot when you're solving these equations. If you have an absolute value equal to a negative number, you know there's no solution. Okay? So what if this was equal to 0? Can we still solve it if it's equal to 0? Could an absolute value of something be 0? Yes, right? Absolute value of what is 0? 0. So right, you just set x plus 1 equal to 0. So this is 0 over here, you just set the x plus 1 equal to 0. Okay? But when it's equal to a negative, can't do it. Okay, so be on the lookout for that. Okay, there will not be some sort of like flashing siren saying, "Look out, this could not be solved." Okay, it's going to show up potentially as just like solve this, list the solutions for this absolute value equation. That'll be your directions, right? No indication that hey, this might not work out, right? In that case, you would put no solution. Right? No solution. All right. All right, I am going to stop there and use this time to pass out your reviews, okay? I will talk about inequalities on Monday when we come back. If you get equations, inequalities isn't that much more. It's just like a little bit, one more kind of little bit to it, and that's it, okay? I am going to assign some homework, though. So let's see here. Gabby, if you wouldn't mind making sure everyone gets one of those, please. And there's more because it's my 5th block class, too. That's why there's like so many. Okay, but I am going to assign official homework. You can decide whether you want to start your review over the weekend or wait till Monday. Your prerogative there. Okay, so section 2.2, starting on page 60, I'm going to have you do numbers. Did I already make this decision? I feel like I did. I did not make this decision. Okay. Let's do like number 2, number 7, number 9. 13. Okay. And that. Okay, we'll just do those. 4 problems. All right. 4 problems. Ooh, okay. I'm going to throw on 24 as a challenge one. If you don't want to do it, if you want to write it down, that's fine. But if you want to, consider that one, 24 there. I don't know how much of a challenge it is, but it is a neat one, so I think it looks pretty interesting at least right now. So feel free to add it. I'll put it on Schoology too if you're afraid you're going to forget about it. Number 2 does ask you to solve by graphing. I would like you to abide by that. Okay, number 2 does ask you to solve by graphing. I would like you to abide by that. Sketch the graph, find the solution by graphing it by hand. Okay, or you can use a calculator if you want to do it, but it's very easy to graph. So try by hand. Okay. Any last minute set requests? Like I already put Max in. I put Brooke, you're in there too. Who else hasn't taken the quiz yet? Okay. Any set requests? Anyone will get a head start reviewing for the test on Tuesday? Okay. Tessa, you want to come in? All right.
Mr. Rook,
Yes.
can I just tell you on Monday if you want to be paid?
Yeah, you can tell me on Monday. That's absolutely fine. But you want to do Monday instead, you're saying? Yeah. Remind me on Monday and I'll put you.
Like your research on casual. What are your electives?
Yeah, if you have any math class questions about what to take next, what you should take, how to get where you want to go, I'll be happy to answer any of those. Thank you, Gabby. Super helpful. All right, have a good day and a good weekend, folks. See you, Gabby.